Hello, my brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Stevekoskiministries. I'm Steve Koski, and this is a video series on how the Lord instructed me to find hidden manna tucked away in Torah until such a time as this. And what I'm doing is taking you on a process to find that hidden manna, how I did it, what I had to go look for, and how I did it. And then more importantly, starting in part 4, which will be the next series of the videos, the reveal of the hidden manna. And it's an exciting time. I can't wait to give this to you and to the world because it's what the Lord wants us to see. It's His will that this should be found and given to the world. So today, what we're going to look at is the process of how I got there. In other words, in the first two videos, if you're jumping in, please go back and look at part 1 and part 2. But they were two already revealed messages that were hidden away in the Bible and Torah. And it leads us into how I had to look, but also some of the things that you see in both of those already revealed messages show up again in a big way in the new hidden manna. So please go back when you have the opportunity to look at those and see what the Lord has prepared us for to receive in new manna. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go into the slide that you see on the screen. Back in April of 2022, last year, the Lord commanded me, and this is a command. He said, in the very first split second when you're awake in the morning, He said, find the secret verse in Micah. Now, when He said that, you're groggy, and I'm just waking up, and I've actually said with my mouth, said, Lord, I don't know how to find a secret verse, and that's going to be a lot of work. I didn't even get that out of my mouth. When the Lord said, and rather sternly, as I might say, He said, anything worthy is worth looking for. I was motivated. So now I knew I had a command to go find a secret verse. He told me where to go look, but I had no idea how to make that happen. So what I want to look at with you first here is look at what Proverbs 25:2 says. Look here. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. What's happened with me and the way He's done this is a personification of that very verse. It's what He hid, and it was for us to search it out and now give it back to Him, being with all the glory given to heaven and to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So let me say this. He told me where to go look by go look for the secret verse in Micah. So, okay, Lord, but I had no idea how to go look. Now I'm a pilot. I watch a lot of videos about flying on YouTube and stuff. And I told this in the part 1 or part 2, but it comes into play here. I watch a lot of flying videos. And on YouTube, when you're watching, you get suggestions about what you might like to watch. And one of those, even though all these other flying videos, this video pops up from Chuck Missler. And the title of it is An Extraterrestrial Message. Are there hidden messages in the Bible? I saw that and I just started laughing. I couldn't believe it. So, okay, Lord, I'll watch this. After He told me where to go look, this pops up. And when I watched that video, it gave me the how to go look. And that's what you see in part 1 and part 2 of the Stevekoskiministries Hidden Manna Reveal. So if you've not seen that, it plays an important part. Please go back and look at that. So, okay. So first, before we move on, let's talk, when this was starting, I said, why would the Lord hide a secret verse in Micah? Secret verse in Micah. What's so special about Micah? And let's just get some simple points out of the way first. Micah is one of the minor prophets in the Bible, but not in the Lord's eye, certainly. He lived about 600 years before Christ. Hence, what we see today was written by human hand, but given by God 2,600-ish years ago. And I say today because I wrote this for when I'm actually presenting it in front of an audience, but you're going to see this beginning in part 4 of the series, the actual reveal. Micah also warned Israel of impending judgment, but also a way out from judgment. The same will be true today when you see, or when I reveal in part 4, it will be revealed. The same will be true because it's full of blessing, it's full of instruction, and it's full of condemnation. And it's meant for this time that we're in. And then when you see this and realize this, as I found it, you'll be as amazed as I was. And I'm going to give you a lot of back history about things that I was experiencing while I was finding this stuff, because it's truly incredible how the Lord worked with me. He never left me alone. He was always with me every step of the way. And I was so in tune with him. I was hearing him literally talk to me in my ear, and I would turn to him when he would talk. And I'm going to be giving you a lot of that as we go through the search for the hidden manna and the actual hidden manna and the background when I was finding these incredible verses. So Micah. So why would God hide a message in Micah, I asked, and things started to come to me. Micah is the 33rd book out of 66 in the Bible. Micah is the center of the Bible, basically. And did we not see that example with Leviticus referring to Jerusalem? Everything points to God, and this was in part 2 of the series. If you go back and look at the first 5 books of Genesis, you'll see that Leviticus is in the middle of the two, and each of those 2 things that came out of that hidden verse in the first 5 books points towards Leviticus, or the center of the Bible, Jerusalem. When you study the book of Micah and know Revelation, they speak to each other. When you reread Micah again and keep Revelation in mind, particularly from chapter 3 on, the connection that you'll begin to make for Micah and Revelation will be truly astounding. To me, Micah is the book of Revelation meant for the Jews during the time that the church has been gone. It's been raptured. Micah will take on even more importance to the Jews at that time, because they'll begin to relate that to that. The Lord has showed me so many things during this process. Later on, many, many more things are going to come. But later on, I'm going to really hone in on how Micah refers to Revelation when we actually get to it. It's incredible, the things that he's shown me. So Christ was crucified in his 33rd year. Micah is the 33rd book in the Bible, and raised again. 33, when you look at the number 33 and what it means God's promise. God has promised to do something in 33. Psalms 33 is full of God's promises. When you research Psalm 33, go look at it, read it again, and look for God's promises. It's incredible. Okay, so let's go on and review my gathering process here a little bit, and then we'll talk about things that I'll give you along the way, and we can get to the most important part, which is new manna. Here, what you're seeing is my work, and this is from the first chapter of Micah. And what you'll see that every 7th letter is in red, and every 49th letter is highlighted in yellow. Remember from part 2 in the series when he showed me how to look in and the importance of 49 and 7. And here we begin to see the importance of that. So remember that Tav, the last Hebrew letter, meaning sign or signpost, was the key indicator for how to look. So there were 2 things. Tav, which is the sign indicator. That's what you see right here. That is the Tav, the first Tav from the beginning. Remember, we're reading from right to left. So here's the first Tav, and then every 7th letter from here, highlighted in red, are what I call the working letters. So in other words, I went through all 7 books of Micah, found the first Tav, and counted 7 letters, indicated it, and I started using color coding. That became critical to me along the way to be organized. And then now I had the working letters to go forth. So this was the information gathering phase. Now at this point, I still had no idea. Was it 49? Was the hidden verse going to be by every 49th letter, as it was back in the first part 2 series that the Lord showed us? He hid a message in every 49th letter. Was it going to be 7? I didn't know. So when I had first started to look through for the hidden manna, now I go on a lot of walks. I go on 2 long walks every day, and about 7 miles a day. But that's my prayer time with the Lord. So when I would go on these walks, When I first started looking, I tried 49, as you're going to see in a little bit here, and not much came out. Nothing really, because we're dealing with every 49th letter, remember, and it's got to make a word, a sentence, or a phrase, and potentially a verse, and I wasn't getting that. So on one of those walks, I was walking, and the Lord very clearly said, "Try 7." So I came home, and when I first started, I just did every 49th letter as it was in the part 2 of the series that you can go back and look at. But then I changed it to every 7th. I started to look at both. I still kept both because I didn't know if it was going to be every 49th, 7, or how I was going to do. Remember, I was searching. I was looking for the hidden manna that the Lord placed. And I thought about this, and I said, Lord, can't you just show me where it is and what it is? And and that was not obviously not what he wants you to ever do, because he wants you to experience the journey. Had he done that, and had I saw the verse, the secret verse, and then many people would come and say, well, how did you find that, Steve? Well, the Lord gave it to me. No, it's much better if he made me do the work, and then I could find it and explain it like I'm doing with you now, because it's much better and it's more critical for the word and the placement and the delivery of it when he allows me to give it into the world, which is what's happening now. It's starting. So here we got every 49th letter and every 7th, and this was the gathering phase. So let's go on to the next one. What you see here, I took those. This is the top section here, and the bottom section are the same, but what they are is every 7th letter from the verse as we saw from Micah. So in other words, here's the whole chapter of Micah, and every 7th letter. Remember that we're reading from right to left, from the first Tav onwards. Now, when I was doing this, okay, and I'm thinking, well, okay, Lord, so every 49th letter, and then and you're going to start to see this down here, which is multicolors. So I started to ask myself, well, do I count the first Tav as the first letter? Do I even count Tav as a letter? This very first letter right here, do I even count that? So what you'll see is three different colors, and it deals with how you can start counting. Do I count the first Tav or not? So in other words, if I count the first Tav as the first letter, the first red letter is the 7th letter. If I don't count the first Tav, I'd start here, then this is, and then see what I mean? So there were different ways that I could count. Remember, I was searching. I didn't know, but I knew that 49 and 7 from the first Tav were critical. But I had to search, I had to dig. And I almost felt like, like back in World War II when the Enigma machine from the Germans, and it was a secret code and it had to be broken. They had a hard time doing it until they found the first Enigma machine, and then the code was broken. But code breakers do this stuff all the time, and I felt like I was doing that. I was trying to break a secret code that the Lord had hidden. But my big advantage is he never left me alone. He was always with me. He was always speaking in my ear when I was at the computer or when I would go on these prayer walks, and the information that I would get was incredible. Sometimes when I got a revelation from him, literally, I'm 2 miles away from home. Now I'm 68 years old, but he would give me a message and I would literally run home because I didn't want to forget what he had told me. I wanted to get to the point where I could write it down or put it into the computer so I didn't forget it. A dear friend of mine says, well, why didn't you just use notes or use a recording on the phone? I go, you can do that? I'm about as literate, and you can tell from these videos, I'm about as literate as a caveman when it comes to computers. So, I'm doing my best, but hopefully it gets across and it comes that way to you. So back to what we're looking at here on your screen. Here are the working letters, and this is chapter 1. And remember, as I said, I'm searching. I didn't know where to look. So I had the information to begin to go look. Now you're with me so far, right? All right, here we go. All right. So now we're going to look at Steve's unorganized mess. So remember, these 2 lines right here are all the working letters. It's just in a smaller font so I could see it easier on the screen. Now, here's a few different ways of things that I was looking for. Remember, I was searching. I really had no idea. So early on, the Lord gave me a dream. Right after he told me, find the secret verse, remember I told you, and then he showed me how to look. But then he gave me a dream of looking at, I was standing in front of a mirror, holding the Bible open to the book of Micah, looking at myself in the mirror, and the dream was over. I said, wow, that's really weird. So obviously the next day that I got up, I went and I took the Bible in front of the mirror and held it up to Micah, and I'm looking at myself, looking at the Bible, and I was like, come on, Steve, what are you supposed to see, you big dummy? Look and see what you're supposed to see. Nothing. Now I have a very dear friend of mine back in Virginia. John, how you there? You're listening. I know he's going to watch this. But John said to me something that was absolutely critical, and it was spot on for what the Lord wanted me to do. He said, maybe it's the Lord wants you to look at the Bible in a different way. And that couldn't have been more right, because that's when the Missler video came up, and I saw that it wasn't in the English Bible that I had to look, it was in the Hebrew. And that's what this is. So the Lord showed me that in a dream, but he used a dear friend of mine to explain it, and then a video to show me how to go. So he was kind of leaving breadcrumbs along the way for me to follow. And it's critical to where we're going. Okay, so now what you see up here, that because of that dream, looking at it in reverse in the mirror, I didn't know. So I took all the 7 letters that you saw, and then I reversed them. So here is the first Tav, and it's as if I'm looking at it in a mirror. I spent the time to reverse the whole verse, looking at it. And this time, like we read it from left to right in English, as opposed right to left, as it would be in Hebrew. So here I looked at it in reverse, and then I was looking for the secret verse reverse. Didn't work. Didn't find anything of value. It just didn't work. So then I said, well, if the Lord said try 7, maybe it's every 7th of the 7s. So meaning the Lord gave me the 7 is the perfect number of the Lord. So maybe double 7, a double portion. I'll take every 7th of the 7th letters and see what I come up with. And that's what started here, looking for secret manna that way. Then I said, well, I wasn't getting any results either of these two things. And then I tried every 3rd letter of the 7s. So I started to take these 7 letters, every 7th letter, and I took every 3rd letter, and then started looking for verses that way. I found few things, but nothing that would be considered a continuous verse. So in other words, I knew, and I thought, if the Lord told me to find a secret verse, it had to make sense when you read it. It couldn't be like Steve takes the trash out on Monday and watches Sunday football on Wednesday. That's not right. There's nothing right with that. It doesn't fit in order. So I knew that what I was finding, and there's an incredible story that I'll give you later on once we get into the revealing of the manna, how the Lord talked to me about this particular point. So I knew that what I was going to find, it had to make sense. It had to be in a verse and in order. I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, does it, and I'm sitting here at this computer, this very computer where you're seeing this. And I said, Lord, does it all make sense when you read it? And very clearly he said, it does. And I'm turning to him when he's speaking. So, okay, so it does. So I know that what I have to find has to make sense. So I would keep looking. Then I did the same thing because I was looking in the rear view mirror, and look here on the screen, every 3rd letter in reverse. I looked, all right, maybe it's in reverse. Each one is in reverse. So I don't know. I'm going to look and see. Whoops, sorry. I'm going to see what I can come up with. So you can see the process that it was difficult. It was not easy, but it was incredibly worthwhile. Remember, because back in part 2, I told you about eames, or the difference between the aleph and the tav, the beginning of a journey or an end of a journey. And when you get to the end of the journey and you look back and you realize the value of it, and you can see it, I knew that when I would get to the end, I would be seeing written words from God hidden 2,600-ish years ago. I was motivated. And let's go on for a moment. So as I got into the process, I said, well, you know what? Let me take some Hebrew, because I do not write, read, or speak Hebrew. You know how I started? I went on YouTube and I started looking for how to read, write, and speak Hebrew, or read and write Hebrew. But I did kindergarten. I said Hebrew for kindergartners, and that's where I started, because I had nowhere else to start. My mind is thick. I'm as thick as 2 short planks of wood. When I prayed to the Lord, I said, Lord, when you talk to me, make it like you hitting me upside the head with a 2x4 so that I understand it. And he does. He makes it so plain. So what I did, I said, all right, well, let me take some words and put in the English and look for the translation. So in other words, Yahweh obviously comes out Yud He Vav He. So then I said God, and it comes up in different forms, or man, or Messiah, evil. And what I did these names, these words, because I thought just maybe these would be in the verse that I'm looking for, or if I see this as it's written in Hebrew and it sticks out to me, it, I'll know it was a word. It's there. But there's a critical piece to this that I'll tell you here in a second. So I put this up in front of me so that it would motivate me, and I would look at it while I was looking for words from every seventh letter. Remember, all I had was letters. I didn't have words. It's not like he was writing something out. I had every seventh letter, and I had to figure out things. So if I saw 7 letters in this order, oh, there's a word. Now, it was a great idea, but it didn't work. I don't remember why I walked in the kitchen a minute ago, let alone trying to remember all these words. So it was a great thought, but it really didn't work. But I kept it up in the wall in front of me because it kept me motivated and reminded me what I was doing. All right. So Steve needed to get organized. I was all over the board. So when we look back at this, I'm all over the place. And I'm doing things, I'm finding some things, but it's not making a lot of sense. So I needed to get organized. So what you're seeing here is color coding by my view of resulting searches. So in other words, I would find things and then go on and then change it and then forget what I'd already found. And I'm losing the emphasis here. And I'm going to begin to show you how I got organized to go look. So the first thing is when I found something, I started to keep the lines together. So if I found something, rather than moving on, I would copy that whole line, repaste the whole line, and then begin looking from that. But I would find things and then begin to color code in this manner. So gray is something is recognized, but doesn't fit the context of the other lines. There's something there, but it's not in context. Remember, I thought that it would have to flow. It had to make sense. So if I found something and I thought it was viewed as possible, but not likely, keep looking, I'd do it in yellow. So it's something a little bit more critical, criticalness of importance as we're going up here. Red or magenta here is viewed as something to consider the interpretation. It was something that I thought was important. Blue was a strong possible interpretation, but it may not have fit in context with the other parts of the verses that were going to be revealed. Green, when we get to the ultimate revealing of the manna, I'll show you how the verse came up in all of the 7th letters. It will be right there, and you'll see how the verse came out of that because it will be highlighted in green. Green was a very strong interpretation, and it fits the context of the revealed verse. You'll see that. So let me give you an example. Let's look at this. So here's the color coding, searching for the words of the Lord. And remember, every 2 lines is the first chapter of Micah. So here again, here's gray. I knew something was there, but it didn't really fit. It was just beginning. So when I found this, okay, I found that. So I would copy and paste these whole first 2 lines, and here it is again. And now I would begin to play with it, something else, so I wouldn't forget what I found back up in here. See? And when I started and I realized this was wrong, is I thought that and I used Google Translate for the process. And I found through Google Translate that if I found something, but if I put my own period in there, it would join these 3 things together so I could read it that way. And that was dead wrong. I couldn't do that. I cannot add or subtract anything from the letters that are found here. This is where I started out, but I realized that was a mistake. And as I got down into here, nothing has been added or subtracted. It's just what was there from every 7th letter in the original book of Micah. It's incredible. So as you can see the progression here from top to bottom, remember, gray is the lowest on the scale, green is the highest. So this will actually end up being part of the hidden manna. It's right there. Now you'll notice, does it take up all of the 7 letters? No. That's what's critical. And that's why I was thrown off a little bit when I was looking. I thought, well, it's probably does it involve everything? And it does not. The Lord left spaces. He left it hidden. So I had to dig it out. I had to search. I had to find. And it's incredible the way he did this. So when I'm at this point now and I'm going on, I need to tell you a few things along the way here. Many times I needed a break. when I was doing this. It's heavy. It was a lot of heaviness on me. So I would go on those prayer walks and I would talk to the Lord many, 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 many times. I can't stress that enough. He would answer back and he would answer immediately. It wasn't like I would say it and then I would wait for something. A lot of times it would come back immediately. He was waiting for me to go on that walk because he wanted to talk to me. And it's the same with you. When you want to talk to him, listen, don't keep talking. Ask and stop and listen for that still small voice. And let me give you an example. As I'm going and I would ask a specific question, I said, Lord, how am I doing? And it was immediate. Lord, how am I doing? Keep going. Okay, Lord, keep going. And by faith in it, and then that was enough for me. He was watching. He was like, to me, I knew that he was watching what I was doing. And that was critical. That was so important that I was not alone, that I was going to find what I was to find. And one of these comments that he made while I was searching in this, I said, Lord, how will I know when I find it? How will I know when what I see on the screen is correct, is what you want? Immediately, you'll know. And I'm going to tell you how he answered that later on. And hopefully you'll be sitting down when you see that, because you're going to say, wow. But he said, you'll know. And it's beautiful how he made that happen. So I use Google Translate for my search because I do not read, write, or speak Hebrew. I don't have any money. I'm on Social Security. I'm an old guy, retired. So I needed something free and easy to use. Google Translate fit the bill. So basically what I would do I would start with 2 letters, copy, paste them in Google Translate and see what it said. And then I would expand on it. I would go 3 letters, 4. And in one of those walks, the Lord said, try 9. Okay, or I'm sorry, try 8. So he told me try 8 because I was using and when I had the Hebrew Bible, and I would look at the Hebrew Bible and look at, not necessarily that I was reading the Hebrew because I couldn't, but I looked at how many letters were the longest words. So, normally I would see 4, 5, and 6, but every now and 7 and sometimes 10. So, but the Lord told me try 8. And that didn't mean that I had to go back and redo every 8th letter. It meant that try 8 letters in succession to come up with a meaning of a phrase that he wanted found. And it's beautiful when it happens. So I use Google Translate to find things. And my productivity really went up. And I can remember I told you I'm like a caveman. My productivity really went up when I learned that I could split the screen. So I didn't have to keep jumping back and forth between programs. I could split the screen and put for over here and put it over here and see it immediately, and then begin to do what you see here as color coding to make it easier to find and to remember what I did. And once it all started to come together, it's amazing. I mean, I'm pretty vocal when I was doing this. And when I would find something, I'd go, ho, ho, oh my goodness. And I would call it out. I'm working in my office here. And Charmaine my wife would be in a different part of the house. And I'd hear, she's running down the hallway, and she'd come into the room and go, what is it? What did you find? And she would look over my shoulder at what I seen. Sometimes she would say something she wouldn't, because she was as stunned as I was when I found it. I can't wait to give that to you. That's on part 4. Please like and share what you're seeing, whatever platform you're on. Remember, this is not for me. It's not for anybody. This is for the Lord. I'm so driven, so motivated. Get this out because it's to grow the kingdom of God. It's to get to what the Lord wants put out today at this time for such a time as this. Thank you for coming and being with me. I can't wait till next week when I give you part 4, which is the beginning of the reveal of the hidden manna. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.